And I'd like to welcome in an old friend of the Tim Graham Show, brought to you by CTVK. And that old friend is Joel Stanishevsky, on the line from Vegas in a different way, though. Not just on the line. I guess we can't even say on the line anymore. There's no lines, really. It's all Wi-Fi.
Right. There's no phone lines.
Yeah, it's all coming through the airwaves. Joel Stanishevsky, our friend from Vegas. He's from St. Joe's. He went to Buff State. And he's been out in Vegas for 15 years now as a handicapper, odds maker, industry analyst. And he's been coming on the Tim Graham Show for, I think this is year number 5, to talk about Bills
That
game.
Sounds about right.
Betting perspective. Yeah, 2016 was the first year of the Tim Graham Show, back when it started off on as a Buffalo News production. And here we go. We just keep evolving through the formats. It's good to see you. If for those of you who are listening on podcast, you don't get to see Joel's beautiful face, but there he is for those of us looking at the Tim Graham Show YouTube channel. Joel, was that on your face before the pandemic? Ryan Fitzpatrick wishes he had the length that you have on that beard.
So back in, speaking of St. Joe's, back in my senior year at St. Joe's, I went to a date dance at Maryvale High School with a bunch of friends, and I decided to break dance during the dance, and I blasted my chin doing the dolphin, and there was just blood everywhere. And so I went and got it sewn up, and sometimes you get a lot of like fat tissue that collects in your scars, and my scar is just stupid looking. It's like this fatty chin scar. So for the past, I don't know when high school ended, 20 years, I've always had facial hair. And then within the past couple of years, I just let it grow because whatever. And during the pandemic, I think I've maybe shaved once. So you get a little extra Wolverine fur up top, and just letting it go.
It's impressive. It's got the great gray streaks going through it. There's a lot of character in there, a lot of nuance. And when we last saw each other, it's been a couple of years, but when we got together at Elmo's and had a few pops, I recall there was a beard, but not like that.
I don't think it was as advanced at that time.
Right. Do you braid it, or do you put it like, do the Lou Albano put it in the rubber band?
My daughter likes to put like ponytails in it so it sticks out and goes all crazy. But yeah, it's usually just hanging out like this, kind of messy and just whatever. The beauty of working from home, you just get to sit around in basketball shorts and a t-shirt and work whenever you want and take naps whenever you want.
Right on, man. I'm there. Working from home myself, as you can see. I mean, I'm coming to you from this basement here. This is not the 1270 The Fan Studios here, but I got a little renovation going. We're still in the soft launch phase of the Tim Graham Show, soft relaunch phase. We're going to be doing a whole rebranding thing and having a little bit more fun with this with Matthew Fairburn and Jonah Bronstein too. So Joel, let's get into this Bills game. It's only week 3. What do we know from a betting standpoint? What are we comfortable with as we continue to learn not only about the Bills, but really every team in the NFL? So you have to factor in this opponent that also had a, pandemic limited off season and no preseason games. And it still feels like we're very much in the learning phase, but Vegas doesn't stop posting spreads and totals just because we're learning. And maybe this provides an opportunity to take advantage. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. Most sports books put up early lines months ago. So you could bet any of the weeks based upon any feeling you might have, and they've come down those pre-bets, but these numbers that are coming out are still kind of in the wait and see kind of category. You're dealing with teams that had extremely shortened training camps, no preseason, teams that had a really big turnover in players, in personnel, and coaches. So you're dealing with teams that don't have time to gel yet, whereas you look at the Bills, and we're pretty much the exact same team we were last year, with the addition of Diggs and some rookies. But for the most part, you're looking at the exact same team that we had, the exact same coaches. The personnel groupings has been pretty much the same, and I think that's helping to have the Bills be and perform as well as they have been so far.
So, Joel, we have 2.5 point spread. The Bills are favored, and a total of 47. And I know that you have an interesting thought on the money line here versus betting the Bills and laying the points. What are your thoughts on?
Yeah, so the Bills are you're getting the most 2.5 around town, and you're going to be laying 110 to win 100 in any of the sports books. But if you just lay an extra 20 cents, $1.30, you're betting the Bills with no points. So the Bills so far this year, going into week 3, have been pretty undervalued when it comes to the money line. That 2.5 spread should be closer to minus $1.50. So you're getting that value without even having to lay the points. And with a Rams team that can score as quickly as we can, I think that 2.5 points is a lot to lay. The Bills had 2 opponents, weeks 1 and 2, that did score in garbage time. And if the Bills are up ahead, you might see that again. Or if it's a close game, again, you don't want to be hoping that they win and also hoping that they win by 3. So you lay that extra 20 cents on the Bills, and you don't have to worry about them winning by 3. All they have to do is win the game. And they've been undervalued weeks 1 and 2 when it comes to the money line, reflecting the point spread. And I would continue to bet that if you're liking the Bills this week.
On the line from Vegas, it is Joel Stanishevsky from Sloan, St. Joe's and Buff State grad. Has been out in Vegas for a decade and a half as a odds maker, handicapper, analyst. Your thoughts on LA coming to the East Coast in back-to-back weeks? Now, they returned home to practice in Thousand Oaks, California, and they played Philadelphia. And then they go back to Southern California. Then they're going to come back to Orchard Park. What does that do for you as a handicapper when you're looking at this, when you're looking at all the numbers?
You definitely have to take travel into account. So in the course of a week, the LA Rams have traveled 7,500 miles and gone across 3 time zones 3 times now. So that's definitely going to put a wear and tear on them. Their body clock is going to be off a little bit. You know, you're playing at 10 o'clock versus 1 o'clock. It does not bode well for teams traveling west to east, traditionally speaking. And I know that there are different restrictions in place this year than previous years when it comes to how soon you're allowed to travel or what the traveling schedule will be. And there's testing that's going in place this year that obviously wasn't in place before. So there's a lot more red tape this year than previous years. And when you factor in the traveling and the time zones, I mean, I'm guessing that they have a direct flight, but it's still a 5-hour flight from California to Buffalo. So going 5 hours, that's 15 hours they've spent in an airplane and you're talking about guys that are 6'6", 300 pounds sitting on an airplane seat for 15 hours in the course of a week. That's a lot of travel time and a lot of wear and tear on your body. Not even taking into account practicing and playing games and getting beat up for 3-4 hours on a Sunday. So that definitely affects the Rams. I think hoping that the Bills can catch them maybe being a little tired at the start of the game, maybe wearing out at the end of the game, and can use that to their advantage.
The total is around 47, but it's been climbing. So I don't know. Can you get it at a little bit? You probably can get it a little bit higher, a little bit lower, depending on if you shop around. Your thoughts on this total? 47 points, two teams that, the Rams and Sean McVay, they have a reputation for scoring. The Bills, as a Bills fan, you can't just assume, right? But certainly through 2 weeks, it looks like a potent offense in which it's tough to cover everybody, and it's really the same for both teams.
Absolutely. The Bills have shown they can score 30 points quickly, and the Rams have done the same. The Rams, I believe, last year weren't as good as they were expected to be. I feel like this year they've kind of turned that around 2 weeks in and have proven they can run with the best of them. And as we know as Bills fans, there's been a couple of games here and there where we've given up really big plays really quickly. And think back to any year in any game and think about, the Raiders scoring however many 35 points on that game where Dante Whitner labeled somebody in the end zone about 10 seconds after they scored. They've been prone to getting beat over the top. I mean, this is a different Bills team, but you've seen Miami move the ball pretty well against us. Granted, some of that was in garbage time, and the same goes for the Jets. But when we're in that prevent defense, when we're up by 2 scores, you've seen the Bills give up a lot of yards and a lot of points. Now, if we're up 2 scores against the Rams and we give up some garbage time yards and points, I really won't care about that. But for an overs bet, that's definitely something to take into account, that we've definitely gotten soft on the back end when we're up 2 scores, when we know for the most part that we can recover an onside kick and secure a game. But for 2 games that we were definitely overpowering teams, it was definitely a lot closer on the scoreboard due to late scores. So it's something to definitely keep in mind when you're looking at totals. And yes, you can shop around and you can get a 46.5. And if I were betting a total on this game, as of right now, I would definitely say take the over.
And Joel, it's you mentioned there about garbage time touchdowns, and I wanted to ask you about this from a league-wide standpoint, because I think this impacts garbage time in a very specific way. No crowds at most of these games, and when you do have crowds, they're so limited, and then the decibel level with the fake crowd noise too. So you have these quarterbacks that are able to work their offense without being, having the crowd on top of them, having, that heaviness that you get when you're on the road. Maybe it impacts the home team too, but how does the crowd impact the point spread, having no crowd? Because traditionally it's 2.5, 3 points or whatever to the home team. But I know we've discussed in the past that there are only a handful of stadiums where that really holds true from a crowd noise standpoint. Minnesota, New Orleans, Kansas City, Seattle, probably Orchard Park to an extent. But anyway, what's your take on, can you finding a little extra value because the odds makers are still maybe given the 2.5 where maybe it should only be 1.5 or 2 now?
Yeah, crowd noise is definitely a big thing. I believe that the maximum they can pump in is like 70 decibels. And I know that whoever holds the current record, it might be the Chiefs at like 136 decibels or something crazy like that. You can definitely notice the difference. And I know that they pump in extra noise for the fans at home. And I'm guessing that's probably to try to cut out some of the cursing and extra stuff that's going on the field when you're watching NFL or NHL playoffs. When the sound gets reversed, it's like that they're dropping some F-bombs and they need to do something quick. So it's definitely going to affect teams when a big component of your team is your stadium, is the noise, is the screaming, is the maniacs just going crazy. It definitely affects offenses, those fast-paced, no-huddle offenses, the shotgun and pistol formations where you don't have to do the leg raise. You're seeing a lot more teams getting caught with offside penalties because of the hard counts, and that gives the offense a free play to chuck it downfield. So I definitely think that's something that you can't really think about when you're putting up a line, but from a betting standpoint, when you're thinking about this collection of things, for example, the Rams with the travel, and you're dealing with shortened training camps, no preseason with teams with a big turnover of players, you're talking about no extra noise on the defensive side of the ball. On those 3rd and shorts, 4th and 1s where the crowds are going crazy, or after the team scores, you're not getting that extra noise where you see the quarterback, covering his helmet to listen to the play call and people just going crazy in the crowd. You're not seeing that, and they're not hearing it. And definitely something that can affect the defense negatively, because the offense is not having to call a timeout because they couldn't get the play in, or huddling up when they want to do a no huddle. So it definitely can affect defenses. It can definitely affect totals because teams are being able to run more plays. I think the Bills might be leading the league in plays per game. And a lot of that is they can just get up and go. I mean, as a Bills fan, I watch definitely the Bills the most. And I remember seeing games where it's like 8 minutes into the game and we're calling timeout because we can't get the play in and we can't, get to the line on time. And we're not seeing that as much. So it's definitely moving the pace of the game faster. It's getting the offense while they have that momentum, they just keep on moving, and the defense is just sitting there catching their breath, and they don't even have time to change out personnel groupings. And it definitely has affected teams for sure.
Now, you had an interesting thought we were discussing earlier with the Bills to the start that they're off to, the impression that they've made. The impression that they've made on odds makers, and the schedule that's upcoming. And regarding those first handful of games, you had pointed out that the Bills could be favored through 5 games, which is something we haven't seen.
Yeah, definitely a interesting thing. The Bills, as of those first 5 games, 3 of them are on the road, or were, because of the Dolphins game. And point spreads can change dramatically depending upon wins and losses, injuries. If any player starts to test positive, I mean, we're going to see a big move on some of these games. But we could definitely, the Bills are favored this week. They were favored the first 2 weeks. Coming to Las Vegas the next week, they could be, the look ahead line is the Bills -2. Tennessee, they could be a small favorite. Up until we host the Kansas City Chiefs in mid-October. So the first 5 weeks of an NFL season where the Bills are going to possibly be favored is got to be something that we haven't seen in 25 years. And so it's a pretty interesting thing to note that the Bills are, as much as we always say, this is the year. I mean, the Bills are definitely looking 2 weeks into the season like they can definitely be the team this year to go further than they have in the past.
I'm trying to find it here. I was furiously trying to put all the different criteria into Pro Football Reference, and I think I have the answer just as you were winding down there. 1991. The last time the Bills were favored through 5 weeks in a season. So they've been at 4 a couple of times. They were at 4 in 92, 93, 99, 2003, 2005, in which that's within the 5-game span, not 4 in a row. But to get through week 5 and haven't been favored, we have to go back to the second Super Bowl season. So that's impressive.
If you go back not that far, 5-6 years, I would venture to guess that there's been entire seasons where the Bills weren't favored for 5 games. So we're talking about the first 5 games with another game against the Jets, another game against the Dolphins, a home game against New England possibly, the Chargers, the Denver Broncos. I mean, we could definitely see the Bills favored 10 times this year, which is crazy to think.
I'm trying to find that also. Okay, so they were favored 7 times last year, 7 times in 2017. Okay, this actually happens quite a bit. But how about this? 2018, they were favored 3 times the whole year. 2013, they were favored twice the entire season. 2010, twice. 2009, 4 times. 2007, twice. So you're 2001 once. So yeah, you're dead on. I mean, you just took a guess, and you're right. There have been a lot of seasons in which they haven't even come close to having 5 times where they were favored.
Yeah, we're definitely in a interesting time for the Bills.
Well, a lot of people don't know how the sausage is made. I'll go ahead and make a confession. This is the second time Joel and I have done this segment because I screwed up the first one. But this one was much better.
I wasn't going to say anything.
More. It was. We had a stat aspect to it. We looked some things up. We confirmed some of your theories to be factual. Much smoother. Much smoother. I didn't screw up whether or not the Bills were favored or not in trying to figure out about the money line and whether or not you want to lay the points. I had a little trouble with that. So to summarize, Joel Stanishevsky, but I can't get your name right. Joel Stanishevsky thinks you should take the Bills on the money line. Take the over for now, unless it continues to. When do you start getting concerned about the total?
Another point. When it
gets
49
or so, 48?
If it gets up to like 48.5, I would definitely be concerned. I'm also a really big fan of laying the money line because you have the ability to try to hedge a little bit. I bet the Bills versus the Jets on the money line. And then after halftime or right before halftime, I bet the Jets plus 21.5. So you have the ability to get a really good middle on some of these games. When you're betting in running, when you're looking at 2 really high-powered and fast-scoring teams like the Rams and the Bills can be, you can bet both sides of the game all day long and hope to really cash out on games like that.
Joel Stanishevsky on the line from Vegas. I love saying those words because that means it's football season. And for the 5th year in a row, Joel Stanishevsky coming on the show to give you his thoughts on the Buffalo Bills from a betting standpoint. Joel, thanks for joining us again. I look forward to, 14 more of these. Maybe more.
All right, sounds good.
Maybe
definitely more. Way
right,
more. All right, take care.
Thanks for the time.
All right, have a good one.